At least now I have gone to that place before. So
Yes.
All right, Steve. The abatement issue is a big time. The city's been in the news a lot lately, but one of the good things is to take some steps forward to help clean up some of these homes that are in disrepair.
Right.
And this is really an important topic, isn't it?
Well, I think it's important to the community. It seems that in the past few years, there's been an increase in the number of properties that have just been poorly managed or not managed at all. And the city's tried to get more proactive in ways to address that. And, you know, there's a spectrum there of sorts. Some people are simply maybe throwing a few bags of trash in the yard, and other people have let their house go for years, and it becomes a attractive nuisance. It becomes a place where maybe, as Father Joe used to say, untoward behaviors would occur, becomes unsafe. That garbage is attracting rats, and now you have vectors and other things that are affecting your neighborhood. And so, we've tried to find ways to deal with that, and we're having some success with that. Our abatement program has taken some of the most severe cases, and the city's initiated demolition of certain houses. In other cases, we've been able to convince a property owner to manage their property better, which might include remodeling it, might include demolishing whatever's on there and selling the lot for future development. And I think we're north of 20 of those cases since I believe 2012 is when we started doing this. So yeah, we've seen a lot of change in some properties as a result of this sort of a different approach.
Talk to me a little bit about the reaction you get. And I know it's got to be varied from home to home, but some of these homes are not occupied. They've been vacant, or there's squatters in there and that sort of thing. What about the ones that are occupied that fall under this abatement ruling? What's the reaction to them? Is it all individual, or?
Well, yeah, it's different. And our first approach, we try to just let people know there's a concern and give them an opportunity to do the right thing.
Right.
And in most cases, that does happen. You do have cases where property owners either ignore you, or maybe they don't have the resources to deal with it. There's different reasons for that. But when it becomes apparent that the property owner or the responsible party is not going to deal with, that's when we take these more severe approaches. And part of that depends on the integrity of the building, what your approach is. Some buildings are just in need of kind of a makeover and some cleanup. Other buildings have, the roof is failing. Maybe there's windows out. There's a lot of moisture in the building. It's getting black mold, and the floors are failing. So it could be any number of things that are happening there. So in those severe cases, we usually give people sort of one last chance to get things right. We're not looking to demolish your property and then lien your property, but if that's the only recourse we have, we'll take it. There's a line you have to, I think, identify where the property rights of some individual doesn't trump the quality of life of the neighbors and their effect on their health and their well-being.
So what about sellability of their homes too, if they're adjacent or nearby?
That's been we've observed that problem. You may recall a couple of years ago, we demolished a house on Washington Street. All of the properties around that house were for sale, and they couldn't sell them because people would come and look at them. They'd see this derelict house, and I'm not investing here, and walk away. And they were all being held hostage of sorts by this owner who was just neglecting their property.
So what if an owner has walked away from the property and then goes back to the bank? So do you have to you had to deal with any of the banks with any of the properties? Yeah,
the banks are their own category of sorts. Some banks, hire maintenance companies and try to keep the lawn mowed, try to keep the building secure and do the right thing. They see an asset and they're not trying to allow that to further disintegrate. Other banks are a little tougher to deal with. They sort of have that, turn a blind eye to some of these properties out there. But generally speaking, banks are a little easier to work with. At least you can really contact someone who's responsible. Sometimes these properties, it's tough to find who that responsible party is when it's under private ownership. The bank properties, usually they're looking to try to do something to turn the bank to sell the property. They might be selling it at a pre-reduced cost, but they don't want people getting in there and stealing the appliances and wreaking havoc.
The cooperative, well, I guess the cost of this whole thing ultimately goes with the responsible party. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And the program, as we've set it up, we when we have to do the demolition or whatever abatement has to occur, we keep track of what those costs are. We lien the property for those costs, and in some cases, we've been able to recoup those costs through a foreclosure at a tax sale. Properties have came up for tax foreclosure, the liens attached to that, and we acquire the property and basically get our money back. So it's sort of a revolving fund of the way that's set up. This year's budget didn't include additional monies for abatement, but we had some monies from last year's budget that were left over. So we're hoping that we can find enough money to kind of keep that program going. That's the goal.
And I guess, that's the thing. I mean, it's and it's never, you don't get the money right away. Usually you got to kind of float that expense for a while and carry that. And then some of the homeowners that don't have banks involved or whatever, like you say, the resources may not allow them to do the improvements that you've suggested. And then, so are we at a loggerheads there, or do you go forward with it and work out a payment? You don't finance or take care of a homeowner that has limited resources.
In a case where there's not a dangerous structure, but maybe the property is just a big mess.
Right. Right. Okay.
Our approach is to get them in front of a judge, and you can tell a judge why you can't clean up your property, and usually the judge isn't very sympathetic to whatever their reasons are, and we'll give them a certain amount of time to get their act together. We sometimes don't have that ability to have that conversation, but if you're facing jail time, if you don't do something, usually you find a way.
When you mentioned 20 properties, Carol, if you got a question, jump in here.
Yeah, I was gonna just say, are you moving forward with a lot more lately? I mean, is it happening more now that you're going to try to get these properties because you have the funds to be able to do this, or why is it in the news now, or is it just?
Well, I think it's in the news now because of two things. We had a couple pretty serious cases we took action on. I think that a lot of the neighbors were pretty happy about. I think they got a lot of Facebook activity. And then there's a private party that did some cleanup down on Park Street over the weekend that I think has also gotten a lot of attention. And that was a different form of a violation, if you will. It's just a lot of litter, a lot of trash on property that's just been left behind that this property owner or this resident took it upon themselves to clean up. Yeah. We weren't involved in that. We don't advocate going on someone else's property for those kind of purposes, but we know people do. And I think a lot of people liked seeing that cleanup occur. Right.
Yeah. Well, and it's a fine line there. That's a little bit like on the outlaw side of things, because they're just going ahead and taking it upon themselves. But I think the frustration comes because of the slow machinations of government sometimes to get a simple thing like across the street, there's a lot of garbage. What can I do to get that picked up? How can I change that?
In the government's case, there's a gift of public funds issue that we have to be careful about too. We simply can't go in and clean up somebody's property with public money. Right. That's something they should be doing. On the other hand, if these residences have a target area and they ask the property owner, hey, can we come up and clean up the property? And that's sort of a handshake agreement between two parties.
Oh, yeah, that's
Have a good day.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah. Well, they have designs on doing some cleanup on the entrance into the city this weekend as well.
Yeah.
Now, is the city planning on preventing that from happening? Or is there any plans or any consideration at all about what may or may not happen this Saturday as far as the city is concerned?
No, that's really a civil matter anyway. We really wouldn't have a place to be there.
All right, very good.
But those kind of activities I think have happened lately, and that's, I think, causing a lot of focus on this right now.
The orange tagged homes and properties, those are the serious ones.
Yeah.
How many of those do we have currently in the city limits?
Probably no more than 10.
That's still a considerable number.
Yeah, it's a considerable number. Some of those abatements are pretty expensive, and that's mainly why there hasn't been more a more quick resolution to some of these. But in the meantime, what we try to do is keep those secure, keep people out of them. In most cases, the building's unsafe. There's a lot of reasons why people shouldn't be in there. And we're doing this for their safety as well as maybe children who maybe don't know better, that kind of thing. So if we can just keep people out of there until something, some funding source is identified or we finally reach a resolution with the property owner, then abatement can occur.
In the last 5 years, has there been more need for abatement issues to be addressed, or has it stayed relatively the same?
From my casual observation, it's really something that's been on a significant rise. I'm not sure I can tell you why that's occurring, but there seems to be an increase in the number of properties where there's just a lot of nuisance issues in the yard. Mm-hmm. The housing stock is getting older, and I think that's contributing to some of the structures that we're seeing there getting on the list.
Right.
Maybe someone that's lived in a house for 30 or 40 years passes, their kids inherit this property and they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, they may not even be living anywhere near the area.
Exactly.
Yeah. We got about a minute left here before we have to bail out. So where do we go? If people have an issue, maybe with, or maybe not an issue, but just an observance, or want to make something aware for the city, how do they go about that?
Yeah, please give the community development a call. We'd like to know about a problem that you're having in your neighborhood. It may not be something we can get right on that day or that week, but getting in on our list is very helpful. Mm-hmm. And we try to prioritize those. If it's a significant health issue, we're gonna pay attention and try to get resolution to it.
All right. Well, Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Taking the bullets.
Well, yeah, it's not work we enjoy doing, but it's important work.
Sure, absolutely. We'll come back and visit again.
Will do.
Okay.
Thanks.
We love having you on the air. Mm-hmm. It's great. Steve Goins, the Community Development Director for the City of Shelton, and our focus on Shelton this Thursday and every Thursday brought to us by our Community Credit Union. We want to thank them for that. Steve, thank you for coming in.
Thanks again.
Carol, thank you for coming in this morning.
Dale, thank you for coming in this morning.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
Well, we'll do it again tomorrow. What time do you
guys come in?
5-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The morning show used to start at 5, and that meant like a 4 o'clock arrival. And when I bought the station, I put the kibosh on that. That's insane. Mm-hmm. That's crazy talk. But there are, I got to admit, at 5 o'clock, you'd be shocked how much traffic there is out there. Yeah. Truly is a lot of good early risers. I stopped singing the blues right away when I saw how all the other people that were sharing my time of day there. Mm-hmm. And they were going, a lot of trucks out there. People
got a place to go.
Yeah, it's just crazy. All right, we got to make way. Coming up will be, who's next? Tom
Hartman.
Tom Hartman.
Yes.
Then Dave Ramsey. And then Chad. Mm-hmm. Chad. And we've got Gonzaga basketball for everybody tonight. Don't forget, please remember, go Zags. Good luck for the Lady High Climbers.
Yes, good luck on that.
And we resume Daybreak again tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Have a wonderful Thursday. Stay dry.
You're listening to Daybreak on iFiberone News Radio.